So rapper Rick Ross was arrested last week in Georgia. Now he's charged with some very serious crimes. He's charged with number one, kidnapping, number two, aggravated battery with a firearm, and aggravated assault with a firearm. So I'm going to give you a couple quick comparisons, but I'm going to start off with some Florida law. I'm a Florida attorney, so I think it's important that my Florida listeners kind of know what's going on. Kidnapping in the state of Florida is a life felony, meaning that there's no entitlement to bond. Aggravated battery with a firearm in the state of Florida kicks into 1020 life. And what I mean by 1020 life, for those who don't know, a 1020 life case is if you use a firearm in the commission of a felony, if you pistol whip somebody, and you don't discharge, you don't shoot them, you don't kill them, but you are facing a 10-year minimum mandatory sentence, a 1020 life. If you shoot it, it's 20. If you hit somebody, kill them, you're facing life. The last charge in Florida is aggravated assault with a firearm. Now, aggravated assault with a firearm basically means I'm going to shoot you and I have a firearm, I'm going to pull out a firearm to scare you. That's all that charge really means in layman's terms. From a punishment aspect, in the state of Florida, there's a 3-year minimum mandatory sentence and a maximum of 5 years. Okay, so now let's talk about Georgia because that's where the case is. So I did a little research, folks, and here's what I came up with. Kidnapping, right, in the state of Georgia ranges in penalty from 10 to 20 years. However, if the victim, if the person who was kidnapped, in this instance, this individual, and he was injured, all the news reports are coming out that he's drinking through a straw, he was pistol whipped in the face, his jaw may be broken, whatever the charge, but if there was bodily injury involved in a kidnapping, then Rick Ross and his associate are facing life in prison. Secondly, aggravated battery, right? In that case, in aggravated battery in the state of Georgia, facing 1 to 20 years. Aggravated assault, facing 10 to 20 years. So obviously you can see the differences. Okay, why isn't he getting bond? That's what everyone wants to know. Rick Ross, he's a high-profile figure. He's not going anywhere where he's not going to be recognized. So what is the problem? Because he's facing a life felony, because he's facing a kidnapping charge, a superior court judge, a higher level judge, needs to listen and make a decision on bond. So, what's the key to this case from the very beginning? Coming up with a theme. Why would Rick Ross beat somebody with a firearm who's at his house, who's maybe in his house or outside his house, or is just a worker for him? Well, what you want to do is you want to have that theme. Look, if Rick Ross had hired personnel or regular personnel working at his home or his estate, and he walks in and there's someone stealing something out of his bedroom or stealing something out of one of the rooms. Do you think he has a right to do something to maybe whoop that guy? Well, I think a lot of people would say yes, right? So, but if Rick Ross accidentally put the rose garden in the wrong spot or had accidentally, weed whacked the side of the paint job on the house, and then he was led into a house and beaten for that, well, okay. So we know that that's not going to be the case, right? Rick Ross is a reasonable guy. I've met him. He's a nice guy, right? So what does the defense need to do? The defense needs to get the initial charge of kidnapping changed immediately. What do they need to change it to? False imprisonment. False imprisonment, there's a difference. False imprisonment, he'd be facing a different charge, which is 1 to 20 years in Georgia courts. However, it would not have to go in front of the superior court judge. Translation, that means that he could have a bond immediately. He doesn't have to go in front of this higher judge. Now, this higher judge has denied the bond. So as defense counsel, what is my responsibility? What is the defense's responsibility? Get with your client, find out the facts, and use those facts to convince the state attorney to drop or change that kidnapping charge. Now, obviously, the goal is to hit a home run, right? Out of the park and get it all knocked out because this guy was a burglar and he might have been an employee, but he happened to not be there during normal business hours. He was caught burglarizing the house and he got whipped. Yeah, that would be perfect, but probably we don't know if that's the story. But if he's a worker, he's during business hours, he's supposed to be outside and he's stealing something or he's caught stealing something, there may be an argument. The most important thing right now is get your client out of custody. Get the charges reduced. Get the kidnapping changed to a false imprisonment charge, right? And then you're immediately available to get a bond. You get your client out on bond. You take your depots. You go through everything. It's analogous to a tree, right? We're talking about a maintenance worker. There's a big tree in front of Rick Ross's house, and we're not going to cut it from the bottom, folks, right? Because it might hit that beautiful house or one of those beautiful cars, or might fall on one of the family members. We're going to go limb by limb. Zoom, zoom, zoom. We're going to cut the limbs off the tree. We're going to weaken the case. And if our client, Rick Ross, is out of custody, that makes it a lot easier. Because there's a lot of pressure if your client is sitting in custody. There's a lot of pressure to work faster than what is necessary. And if you work too fast, you miss the details. Everything in criminal defense is about the details. So I don't know who's representing them. Whoever's representing them, I'm sure that they have a plan. I'm Roger P. Foley, and that would be my plan. I would have a theme. I would work to get that charge reduced immediately or eliminated, and then I could get a bond. And then guess what? I could get all my witnesses, all the evidence. I can put it together. Rick Ross has the funds to hire an investigator to do what's necessary to find out what the real situation really occurred and come up with a theme of my defense, which is likely to get an acquittal. That's my job. That's what every defense attorney's job is. And all I know is I heard on the news someone saying something, one of the women who are allegedly his attorneys saying, well, his album's about to drop. Who cares? Maybe this will help sales, but I want my client out to enjoy the fruits of his success from his music label and all the things that Rick Ross is involved in. So that's what I would do. That's why he doesn't have a bond right now, folks, because apparently there's no concentration on getting that done, or maybe it's behind scenes and we don't know. Apparently the media is kind of silent. There's no facts. We don't even know what's going on. There needs to be a theme. The charges need to be reduced. He needs to get a bond. Take the time, take the energy, take the manpower, fight the case, go to trial, and do everything you can to secure a acquittal for your client. I'm Roger P. Foley. That's my view on Rick Ross's recent arrest and why he doesn't have a bond. If you have a question, feel free to contact me. I'm mainly a Florida attorney, but I can go anywhere. Thank you very much for listening. If you have questions, shoot me an email and I'll be happy to answer your question. Bye-bye.